Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Stefana and today we have a juicy video. I am the owner, founder, creative director, designer, everything of Liaison the Label, which is an activewear brand for women. And I get DMs and questions all the time asking me about the behind the scenes look at operating an activewear brand and scaling that brand to over 7 figures. So I wanted to take a second and just sit down and talk to you guys and talk you through literally the entire process. So if you have been wanting to start a business, honestly, grab a notebook, sit down, take notes. I'm going to be giving you no gatekeeping, such good information on timelines and how we at Liaison structure things, because at this point, for every single launch, we do follow the exact same structure. I can't remember who said it, but I was listening to a business podcast and whoever was speaking said, and it wasn't like a Joe Schmo, it was someone to the level of like Mark Cuban, but I don't think it was him, said that the most successful businesses do something once and then use that framework to do it over and over and over again. And I felt like that really hit home for me because at Liaison, every single launch follows the exact same framework. And because of that, the launches that we roll out are consistently branded. They are consistently rolled out to you guys. You know exactly what to expect from our socials, from our emails and our SMS. And also, it's so much easier on the back end on our team to know exactly what to do every single launch. Like my girls know this is what I need every single launch. I don't even have to ask them. So I'm going to be talking you through our framework for launches and also just talking to you about what it's like to run a business. I also put a question box up on my Instagram and you guys asked some really great questions. So at the end of this video, I will read through those questions and answer a bunch of them. I will be kind of looking off to the side. I have my computer here because this is just there's a lot of information and I wanted to make sure that I really tapped into everything. So I typed out a bunch of notes. So if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my notes because I wanted to make sure that I really got you guys all of the most accurate information as far as our timelines and our production and everything like that. So up first, I guess let's just start out from the beginning. It's turning into like a founder story. I'm gonna give you the really abridged version. I'm not gonna give you the full founder story. I can do that in another video. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know that story. But back in 2017, way back in 2017, I know, almost 10 years. I graduated high school and the summer between going to college and graduating high school, I was going to the gym all the time. I was wearing activewear. Keep in mind, this is 2017. The activewear wasn't like it is now. The industry was very different. And I was thinking to myself all the time, like, I know I could make something better than this. I was going to college to study sport management. So I knew I could get like the business side of everything, but I wasn't going to school with the intention to start a clothing brand. I just, in the back of my mind, always had this feeling that was like, hello, it can't be that hard to make clothes that look good and feel good. So I started posting content online on Instagram and TikTok in 2017, but then I deleted it all because I was getting bullied by people and they were like, what are you doing? This is so cringe. Keep in mind, 2017, times are different. And so I deleted my fitness account and then I ended up bringing it back in 2018 and I was like, let me stick to it. I'm gonna ignore the haters, ignore the outside noise, let me stick to it. So I started posting my workouts online. I had 110 followers. I had no one. Like, I just had 110 followers and I was posting every day. I was showing up for the 110 people who were there. And then I started posting on TikTok in November of 2019 was the first time I ever posted on TikTok. And that was back when everyone was literally doing the renegade and twerking on TikTok. And no one was using TikTok for anything educational or anything like that. Everyone was truly just like renegading. So I said to my college roommate at the time, I remember we were in our living room and I said to her, I was like, I'm gonna be the first TikTok fitness influencer. And she was like, okay, how are we gonna do that? She wasn't like, don't do that, that's crazy. She was just like, okay. TikTok fitness influencers didn't exist. That was like a crazy sentence to say because there was no one posting any type of informational content on TikTok in 2019. So I downloaded 2019 and then it got super confusing and I was like, I can't do this, I'm overwhelmed. And also I only had 100 followers on Instagram and I just felt cringe and everything was going wrong. So I deleted it. Then January 2020, I was like, let me bring it back. Like, I believe in myself. My Instagram had started to gain traction. And by started to gain traction, I mean, I was up to 300 followers. So I started posting on TikTok and my TikToks started to go viral. And this was January 2020. Keep in mind, still, no one's really using TikTok. It had just transitioned over from Musical.ly. It's still a little bit cringe to be on the app. And then I was just posting at-home workouts, the same style workouts that I post for you guys now, dumbbell-only workouts, really female gaze content. And in March of 2020, everyone got stuck at home because of COVID and everyone downloaded TikTok. I already had January and February and half of March worth of content on TikTok. So when people started looking up at-home workout, dumbbell-only workout, everything like that, when they were stuck at home during COVID, when everyone mass influxed to TikTok, my content was what was showing up for them because no one else had been posting anything like that. It was truly just me and Blogilates at the time. Cassie Ho, if you know Blogilates, which is funny now because she ended up launching an activewear brand too, and hers is huge. It's in Target. But I'm trying my best. But it's funny. We both were like the first OG fitness people on TikTok and we both ended up with activewear brands. Everyone gets to TikTok, everyone starts searching home workouts and my content starts like showing up. So because of that, my account starts growing. I grow 100,000, I grow 200,000, 500,000. I hit 1 million followers on TikTok. And at the same time, every single caption on TikTok, on every TikTok, even when I had no followers, every single caption said, my Instagram is at Stefana Vera. Every single caption. My Instagram is, for like 3 years, I made that my caption on every single TikTok post to funnel everyone from TikTok to Instagram. So that's kind of like where the audience came from. Let's take a step back. So 2017, 2018, right? I am in college, I'm playing lacrosse, I'm at practice, like pulling down my shorts for the entire practice, getting pissed off because the clothes that should just be supporting me in my movement and in my workouts just aren't moving with my body the way that they should be. And I, at the time when I started my fitness page, I actually started it with my friend Molly, and we're still friends. But she was one of my besties in high school. And I remember I came to her the summer after our freshman year and I was like, Molly, like we should start an activewear brand. And Molly, being a sane person with a brain, me being insane and crazy, Molly's like, okay, who are we gonna sell this to? Our 100 followers? And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about that part yet, but let me work on it. So long story short, Molly was like, I don't think this is a good move for me, but good luck, sister. And I was just in my brain, I'm like, I know I could do this. I didn't study fashion design in school. I didn't study like anything related to manufacturing or clothing or anything like that, but I am a Capricorn. So I knew, I was like, okay, like what? Like it's hard? And also it was 2017. So if you think about the activewear industry back in 2017, there wasn't really anyone. There was Gymshark. There is like Buff Bunny, which is still an incredible brand. People ask me like, oh, like what brand would you wear if you didn't like if you didn't own Liaison? And I always say like, I think Buff Bunny. I really think the owner is lovely and the products are great, which now I'm like promoting other brands. So like 2017, there was no one. Nowadays, everybody has an activewear brand. So I started working on the sample production process of creating an activewear brand. What does that mean? I started Googling how to find a manufacturer. Keep in mind, it's 2017. TikTok doesn't exist. There's like no resources out there. You can't just like look up on TikTok how to start a fashion brand. Now you can do that. You guys have incredible resources. You truly have so many resources out there. In 2017, I'm Googling how to find a manufacturer, how to find like clothing. I was calling places in the United States. I'm like, hi, like, can you help me make leggings? And they literally were like, how many? And I was like, well, I have 100 followers, so maybe like 10. And they were like, no, we can't do that. And now like looking back, it's so cringe, but I remember like sitting up straight and like getting my phone and be like, hello, I need help making leggings. And they literally were like, get a job, lady. And I was like, oh, okay, perfect. So then and at the time I'm still posting all my content and everything, and I'm getting connected with some really great girls in the fitness space. And my friend Nikki, she owned an activewear brand at the time. And so and it was Nikki Font. She doesn't do it anymore. She works with other brands now, but she did do her own activewear brand for a while called Nikki Font Activewear. So I called her and I texted her. I was like, Nikki, like, can I ask you some like invasive ass business questions? Because I don't know what to do, but I know I want to do this. She was a saint. She got with me on FaceTime for literally like 2 hours. I remember being in my college apartment being like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And she just answered everything. Like, she's incredible. We are still friends to this day. So just a sign, if it weren't for Nikki's help out the gate, probably Liaison wouldn't have existed the way it does now. It would have been so much harder for me to get to this point. And so people like Nikki and other women who actively support other women trying to create brands are my favorite type of people. And this is your sign. There's room for everyone. So hopefully this video can give you guys lots of notes. Where are we? Okay, so I'm calling up LA. I'm like, hello, it's me. I need 10 pairs of leggings. They're like, no. And then I have my call with Nikki. She helps me figure out how to figure out manufacturing and everything. You guys can look it up now. Just look up how to find a manufacturer. You guys will be able to find it. Anyway, so after my call with Nikki, I take those next steps and I begin the sample process for starting an activewear brand. And that process took forever. This was 2018, and I started reaching out to manufacturers and requesting samples. At the time, I'm also a full-time student taking 20 credits every semester, playing lacrosse in a sorority and working 3 jobs. I started reaching out to manufacturers. I'm like, hi, like, can you help me with samples? Every single sample that I did for Liaison cost $50 plus $30 to ship, because we were finding these manufacturers who were overseas. Like, realistically, manufacturing in the United States is just not an option for 99% of activewear brands. So I was reaching out to manufacturers overseas. Every sample, $50 and $30 to ship. That's $80. $80 is a lot of money to get a product that you don't know if it's going to be any good, especially when you are a college student working 3 jobs to be able to afford these samples. So $80 per sample. I was bartending, and all the money I was making, I'm like, okay, I would like get my tips at the end of the night. I'm like, I can get 3 samples, like crazy. And so I started getting samples from these different manufacturers, and they all were so horrible. So I just want to let you know, if you are trying to start an activewear brand or a swim brand or a lounge brand or any clothing-based brand, finding a good manufacturer is hard. It's time consuming, it's expensive, but once you find your manufacturer, hopefully you'll be able to stay with them forever. So like, once we found the one that we work with now, they've been our manufacturers since we found them. So it took me about, I don't even know, 3 years, which sounds like a really long time, but also I wasn't doing samples every week like the way that we are now because I couldn't afford it. So I had to do like, okay, $80 this month, I can get like 1 sample. Next month, maybe I can do like 2 samples. And then this month I can't afford it. So over the span of 3 years, I was just running as many samples as I could with the budget that I had. And also then COVID happened. So imports from overseas were not a thing. So we got a little bit of a interception there in 2020, which is when I was kind of getting close to having all the final products like nailed down. So I had found the manufacturer that I knew I wanted to go with, but the products weren't good enough yet. And so COVID happened and I couldn't order anything. And then they opened the factories back up and I could order things again. And I remember living at home and we would get these packages from DHL and they were coming from Hong Kong. That's where our manufacturers are. My mom would see the package on the porch, sprayed it down with Lysol. She's like, no, COVID's gonna get in the house. Like, remember how crazy we all got during that era? And like, imagine like packages coming from like Hong Kong. My mom was like, what is this? Who are you gonna sell this to? You're gonna give us all COVID. And I was like, no, Mom, it's gonna be worth it, I swear. I was getting all of those samples and the products that came in were hit or miss. It was so inconsistent, and that is because I do not have a fashion design background. I did not have any schooling in designing clothes, any education in textiles, in manufacturing, in anything. So what I would do is I would make sketches of products, and then I have like a soft measuring tape. I'm like looking around because there's always one like within like an arm's distance away from me. I would have a soft measuring tape, and I would just send my manufacturers dimensions of a product of what I thought would work. And that's probably why the sample process took so long for us, because I didn't have that education and I didn't work with any type of designer or anything. I have designed every single product for Liaison since day one, and I don't have any education. I don't have any skills. I don't have that background. So if you have wanted to start a clothing brand and you're like, but I don't know how, like, I don't even know how to design a sweatshirt. For our lounge collection that we just dropped like a month ago, I literally drew a sweatshirt on a piece of paper and then took measurements on a human body and then just sent it. And it took us 8 rounds of sampling to get those measurements right, probably because I don't have that education, but it ended up being perfectly fine. So don't let your lack of experience or lack of formal education be the reason why you don't start a clothing brand. You can figure it out as you go. It's gonna probably take a lot longer, like it did for us, and it's gonna probably be more expensive because those samples are expensive, but don't let that be the reason that you're like, I can't do it because I've never designed clothes. Girl, I've been doing it and I had no training. So if I can do it, I know you can do it too. Okay, so we locked down our manufacturer and we launched our first collection called the Ignite collection. And we launched red and gray and a Dalmatian print. Let's circle back. So now it's 2020. The people of the world have flooded onto TikTok. My TikTok has grown. My Instagram is plugged in every single TikTok caption. My Instagram is growing because of that. Now I have this audience to sell to. So I started the sample production process when I had 100 followers. Not to sound like, oh, like crazy hippy dippy. I believed in myself enough that it would work, that I just started working on it when I had 100 followers. So if you are sitting at home and you're like, I don't have an audience, I'm not an influencer, like I literally have 500 followers and half of them are from high school, it's fine. You don't know where your life could be in 3 years. Like, just start working on the product. And then once you have a product that is so good that you can put your name behind, like it will come. Like, it was kind of a form of manifestation as I look back. It's like, I was working on designing these products with no one to sell them to, and everyone around me is questioning, like, who are you gonna sell that to? And I was like, somebody someday is gonna buy these and they're gonna love them, and now you guys do. But you gotta believe in yourself and you gotta start that timeline. Like, it takes a while. Like, if you're like thinking about doing it and if this has been weighing on you, do it. This is your sign, okay? This is your sign. So we launched the first collection and I did have a huge audience to launch to, which puts me at a big advantage. So if you are launching a brand and you do not have that influencer presence backing you and you're not in the realm of like having access to other creators to promote your stuff, it's going to be a lot harder to find that organic growth. I know the ins and outs of like every other activewear brand in the space, and 99% of them started at the same advantage that I did, in the sense that either their founder already had a big presence or their founder was so well connected into other social circles that promoting their product was a lot easier. Just because it's easier for us doesn't mean that it's impossible for you. I believe in you. You can do it. It's gonna be harder though. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna DM the influencer and then she's gonna wear it. Guys, we DM influencers on Liaison. We don't get responses. People don't respond. Some of them do. Obviously, we've had some incredibly huge, amazing creators work with us. But if you are thinking about starting a brand and you're like, I'm just gonna message influencers and then I'm gonna send them this stuff and then they're gonna wear it, not happening. Literally not happening. Now you guys have the whole backstory of Liaison. I know that I was just yapping. I know that that was just a very long intro. I wanted to give you guys that framework and that perspective of the fact that yes, you guys see me as a creator now, you see me as an influencer now, but when I started doing all of this, I wasn't a creator, I wasn't an influencer. I had literally no one believing in me and I had no one following me and it was just me and myself. So I wanted to give you guys that backstory and that framework and that timeline so you could see that from 2017 until 2020, 2021, like it was really just me. I was the only one in my corner rooting for me, and that might be you too. Like you might be the only person who thinks that what you want to do is a good idea, but I just want to give you that reassurance that if you fully believe that you can commit to something, you can absolutely do it regardless of what the people around you are saying. And honestly, like the people around you, they might just be nervous for you. They're not probably doing it with malicious intent. They're not like, you shouldn't do that. They're probably just like, okay, but like what happens if no one buys it and then you're out money, blah, 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 blah. Just know if you believe in yourself and this has really been something that's weighing on you, I believe that you can do it. And I will be the first person to support your brand. So let me know if you guys end up launching anything. Let's get into the nitty gritty of launching a collection now. So our first collection that we ever did, like I said, it honestly was a shit show. Like I have no advice for you because we were just throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks. I did do, they say that if you don't look back at like things that you've done in your business and cringe, like did you guys just see that visible cringe? They say if you don't look back and cringe, it means you haven't grown enough. Guys, oh my God, I have to find a picture. I'll try to find a picture. I'll try to insert a little picture for you guys. The first PR boxes that we ever sent out, oh my God, guys, they were homemade. It was a white box and I got stickers. I got red stickers and oh God, it's so cringe. And I individually laid all the stickers to say like defining active and then the influencer's name. And oh my God, I remember driving up because I went to college in a small town in Ohio and we didn't have any stores. We had a Walmart. I drove from Athens, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio to get everything for the PR boxes because I was like, I need these to be legit. Like I can't. And I really thought I ate. But the first product you put out, the first PR box you send, the first email you send, the first website you make, if it's not the worst thing reflecting back that you've done, then you have not grown enough. Like if I looked back at our first launch and I said, yeah, we crushed that, there would be a problem. So let's talk through what we do now as a business that operates full-time with multiple full-time salaried employees. And I'm going to take you through a launch now and the design process timeline now to kind of give you guys some transparency and some clarity, because I do feel like there's a lot of noise out in the world. It's like, oh, well, why is your product selling out so fast? And why couldn't you have just ordered more, and things like that. So I think that the conversation that we're about to have is gonna really answer some of those questions for you guys, for not only Liaison, but other brands that you might know and love. So I'm gonna be looking down at my computer just because I have my timeline on here and I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. But 6 to 12 months out is when the product design and like conceptualization starts to happen. So for example, the collection that is dropping for the romance edit for like our Valentine's collection, all of that design work was done at the end of last summer, early fall. And it is kind of hard to make sure that you're like gonna be on trend and that you're gonna pick the right designs and you're gonna pick the right colors. That's really hard. But I personally like to use trend reports and Pinterest. These are all free things. I do not pay for any trend reports. I'm sure bigger brands do because they have budget to put towards that. But you can look up on TikTok, like trend reports. You can go on Pinterest, 2025 fall activewear predictions, 2025 fall color predictions, 2025 winter color predictions, accessory predictions. You guys have so many resources. So all I use is number 1, Pinterest, number 2, any free trend reports that might be available, number 4, what am I on? TikTok videos from people who are like trend forecasters on TikTok. And I also like to stalk fast fashion brands, which sounds like a crazy idea, but brands like Shein or White Fox or H&M even, they have access to expensive trend reports and they work so far ahead of the trend curve. So for example, last summer, you probably saw like H&M and Shein dropping cheetah print stuff. Okay, so here's a prime example. You probably saw them dropping cheetah print and you're like, okay, like the early adopters are gonna be like on the cheetah print. The girls who are trend forward are gonna be first people to buy that cheetah print. The rest of us, like I would consider myself, I'm not an earlier adopter. I have to sit with that for a few months. So if I see that Shein or whatever other big fast fashion brand is pushing this specific pattern, this specific style, this specific cut last summer, I can predict that it's probably gonna take, let's say 4 to 6 months for the people who might consider buying it to be like, okay, we're warming up to this. And then another, let's say 6 to 12 months for people to be fully on board. So at this point, cheetah print has been in the realm for, forever, you know, it comes in and out, but cheetah has been back now for almost a full year. You guys have seen it on your favorite influencers. You guys have seen it on the celebrities, and people who are not early adopters have seen it enough to be like, oh, maybe I could wear a pattern like that. So I don't just pull patterns out of thin air. Like it is very intentional. It is very, very strategic. And I think that because I am constantly watching influencers and I'm constantly watching these fast fashion brands, I'm constantly looking at trend reports, it helps us be able to stay on trend without being the first people to do it. In my opinion, you never want to be the first person to do a trend that isn't something super timeless. So for example, a pattern like cheetah, you don't want to be the first person to do cheetah because only the early adopters are going to shop from you. But like our double layered shorts, like we are the first people to do that waistband. That's not so much a trend. Like that is a piece that people can wear forever. Obviously a technical design, you do want to be the first person to do that. Like our flow shorts, I wanted to be the first person to make a running short with a thong liner that fit really nice. And things like patterns or really crazy colors or like really out there, overly trendy designs, I don't want to be the first person to do it. Like I'm gonna let my competitors or people who aren't my competitors who have access to a lot more money and resources sources do it first so I can watch how it works for their audience. Okay, so 6 to 12 months out, we start considering what product designs we want to bring in. So that is kind of a wide gap. That is because we need those 6 to 12 months to finalize all of the samples. At this point, we have a great relationship with our manufacturers, and our samples no longer cost us $50 per sample. We do get our samples for free at this point. That is because we're spending much more than $50 with them a month, so it all evens out, I guess, on their end. But we get our samples a lot faster now. So when I started out, the samples took like 3 weeks to get to me, and now I can get a sample if I need it. I try not to need a sample with that fast of a turnaround time, but if I do need one, I can get a sample in like 5 days, complete, from China to me in 5 days with a new design, with everything. And that's just because of the relationship that we've built with our manufacturers, because we've stuck with the same manufacturers since day one. So we use those first 6 to 12 months to finalize, and it's not usually 12 months, it's usually closer to 6, but depending on what it is, like the flow shorts were 15 months, but a bra is usually let's say 2-3 months. And we use that time to finalize the samples for the fit and design and everything that's super technical about the product. And then we also use that time to finalize the color swatches. So I'm going to show you guys an example of what our color swatches look like when they come to us. When it comes to picking colors for a clothing brand or for textiles in general, whether that's upholstery for chairs or things like that, you are going to be using Pantone. So Pantone has created an alphanumeric color code system so that I can reach out to my manufacturers and tell them I want 18-1561, and then they can find 18-1561 in their system, and they are going to get this exact same color red that I have in my hand. We have these Pantone color swatches here. These are the more affordable version of the color swatches, and these are still expensive. I think these were $750, which is crazy. They do have a much more expensive version that actually includes cotton fabric swatches of the colors instead of just paper. So this is just paper, so I can just kind of see what the color looks like, but it does look so different when it comes to actually dyeing it onto a fabric. So you can get, if it's in your budget for starting your business or continuing to grow your business, you can get the color swatches from Pantone, and maybe it could save you time with your manufacturers so that you wouldn't have to get these lab dips. But even if I had the color swatches on fabric from Pantone, I would still have to get lab dips from my manufacturer because Pantone isn't printing on our activewear fabric, if that makes sense. So honestly, I personally think that you are more than fine with just these. I don't think you need the actual color swatches unless you have that much extra budget to work with. You can also access Pantone's full color library online. It's called Pantone Connect. I do have a Pantone Connect membership as well. I think I pay maybe $14 a year. That could be so wrong. I might be so wrong, but it's nothing too crazy for Pantone Connect. But Pantone is how you're going to communicate with your manufacturers what colors you are interested in. So we are launching red for our Valentine's collection. And if you said to your manufacturer, "Hi, I need red," there's 1,000 shades of red to pick from. And then if you have these color swatches in your hand, there's so many shades of red to pick from. So how we do it is I pull my favorite shades from all of these color options. I send them to our manufacturers and they send me lab dips. So this is an example of lab dips, and you can kind of see that we have a bunch of different shades of red, and some of them might look super similar honestly to I don't want to say an untrained eye, because obviously my eye is untrained too, but if my boyfriend looks at some of these colors that are super similar side by side, he's like, I can't see the difference. But since I've been looking at fabric swatches for 5 years, I'm like, I see 1% more blue inside of that red. And you just get really good at pulling the differences between the colors. So you can see like this one has a star. This is the exact shade that we ended up going with for our Valentine's collection, which is Pantone number, in case you love it and you want to use it for yourself. It's Pantone number 191652. So that is the exact shade of red. And we did sample all of these other shades. So it's not like we create these collections and we're just like, I guess we'll do red. Perfect. Next. No. Like the color selection process is so thoughtful. How we do it is we'll pull the swatches and then we put them side by side. And then we also will lay these on different skin tones. So I can see like, okay, I think that looks a little orange. Like this, it's a red, but it looks orange, and we don't want the reds to pull orange when it's on different skin tones. So we'll test these little swatches on darker skin tones, lighter skin tones, to make sure that the color that we end up picking looks amazing on every single skin tone. And that is kind of how we do that. So during the sampling process, we are finalizing the colors, we're finalizing the designs. And like I said, I just send sketches over to my manufacturing team. Some manufacturers are going to require you to have a tech pack. My manufacturer never required me to have a tech pack, so I can't speak on tech packs, which is like kind of annoying that I can't speak on it because I feel like it's pretty important. I've never needed to make a tech pack before because we have such a great relationship with our manufacturing team. But I know some of my friends who own other like clothing brands, they work with people to create tech packs. So you can look up a video on a tech pack and learn more about that, but I can't speak on it just because I haven't really had any experience having to do that. All of our designs are so custom and personal to me. Like they truly, this is gonna sound crazy, okay? No, this actually does sound crazy. The shorts, the double layered sculpt shorts, I had a dream about them. And I woke up and I drew the product, sent it to our manufacturers, and got the sample. Like, I don't know. I don't think that you can learn creativity. I think that creativity is something that you are born with and that kind of cultivates over time, like through your experiences. I don't think that I could tell you like, here's how you're gonna get more creative. If you don't have that creativity inside of you already, you might want to work with someone close to you who can maybe come up with those creative designs and figure out what color palettes and everything would look really good. But I can't speak on the tech packs because all of our designs start as either a dream, apparently, or a drawing. So I really do just draw stuff out. Or if I find a top at the mall that I'm like, oh, I love this. And it's not even an activewear top. It's just like a sweater. I'm like, oh, but I really like this detail. I'll take a picture and I'll send it to our manufacturers. I'm like, can we incorporate this scrunch detail into a sports bra? And they'll be like yes or no, and we kind of do it like that. So our design process is probably a little bit less traditional than some of the bigger activewear brands, just because I'm not an actual, I guess I am. Let me step into my power. I am an actual designer, I guess, but I don't follow the same type of structure and guidelines and tech packs that other companies are definitely utilizing. So if you want to learn more about tech packs, go find that information somewhere else. I don't want to give you wrong information. So yeah, we are 6 to 12 months out. We've got our products done, we've got our colors done. Let me show you one last thing before we go into the next phase. I want to show you how our patterns come to us and talk you through that really quick. When we find patterns or when we design patterns, we send them over to our manufacturers and they print them all out for us on these big sheets of material. So this material, this base material, actually is the same material as our leggings, which is so funny to see it as just like a big slab of fabric, but they will print patterns for us. So these are a few examples of like all the different cheetah patterns that we sampled before we ended up actually selecting the final pattern. And they just come to us like this. So if you ever are trying to figure out, okay, well, I like this pattern, but I don't know like what it's gonna look like on fabric, odds are that your manufacturers are probably going to be able to print your patterns for you and then send them over so that you can end up with a final product, which these are the final product, which I know they're bold. I think they would look amazing on you. But this is the final product of our wild side shorts. And this did start out as literally a square on this sheet right here. You can see where I cut out the wild side pattern. It's right here, and that's where I cut it out. And this was our final square. So that's what the pattern process looks like. We haven't done a pattern in a little bit, so I almost forgot to mention it, but that is what the pattern process looks like. And so now we've talked through 6 to 12 months out, we're finalizing designs, we're finalizing colors, everything. We nailed down all of that. 8 to 12 weeks out, we place what is called the purchase order. And the purchase order is basically just us paying for all of the inventory so that the products can go into production. We do pay for everything up front, which is kind of a scary business model, especially when you are just starting out. It's like, okay, I have to pay for this entire launch, whatever, however many thousands of dollars, and I don't even know if anyone is gonna buy it yet. So we do pay for everything ahead of time. After we place our bulk order, we have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for our fabrics to be done being developed. So we use all proprietary fabrics at Liaison. These are fabrics that are custom made, custom dyed just for us. You do have the option to speed up your development timeline and your manufacturing timeline if you use fabrics. It's also a less expensive option if you use fabrics that your manufacturer already has on hand. So it wouldn't be a proprietary fabric in the sense that like this is your custom Pantone color that you selected, but they might say like, oh, we have a red fabric in stock that our other customers like that you might like, and it's cheaper. So you do have options as far as making those initial orders maybe less customized but more affordable to see if your audience likes your product. Since day one, like everything has been proprietary for us, is coming up with the custom Pantone colors and the custom patterns and the custom fabrics. And then we wait 6 to 8 weeks for the fabrics to be done production. So once the fabrics are done production, and again, 6 to 8 weeks, you could skip that 6 to 8 week period if you're using a generic fabric that your manufacturer already has on hand. And some of those generic fabrics are amazing. It's not like shitty fabric. Like it's totally an option. Look into it if you think that would work for you. After we wait the 6 to 8 weeks for the fabric to be done, the fabric goes under its first round of quality control. So basically what they'll do is imagine this whole sheet was just red fabric. So instead of the pattern, because this is our fabric, it goes through a different stress tests. So it'll go through like, they'll take a whole thing of fabric like this and it'll go through different stress tests, like pulled and stretched, and make sure that it bounces back, and then it gets washed to make sure that the colors don't bleed, and then everything just gets tested in that first step. And then the fabric enters into the second phase of production, which includes cutting and sewing the fabric into the product. So it's our actual product development stage. After the products are cut and sewn, which takes like 4 to 6 weeks, we go through another round of quality control. And there's only been one time that I can think of in Liaison's history that we ever had a product that was like a weird thing happened as far as quality. Like you guys know our quality is amazing. You guys are probably still wearing the same shorts that you bought so long ago. But one time we did have a batch of about 50 mocha brown bridge shorts where the back seam just was coming unraveled, and somehow it didn't catch during the quality control tests. And so when people actually put them on their body, like the back seam would unravel. The pants didn't split or anything, but just visually the seam got messed up. Like the fabric itself stayed together. It was just the superficial seam that wouldn't hold for whatever reason. So that's the only time I can think of that we had a product that was like, oh God, like, oh no, what's going on? After we nail down all of the product samples, and then we get the fabric produced, and then the products are sewn, and then the quality control is done, the products have to make their way from our manufacturers to us. And we have 2 different options for shipping all of our bulk inventory to our warehouse. So option number 1 is shipping by air or shipping by ocean. And We can ship either way, but we prefer to ship by ocean because when you ship by ocean, you do not have to pay import fees on the products. So shipping by air is a little bit more affordable. It's still very expensive and it's a lot faster. So it takes about maybe 5 to 10 days to get here if you ship by air from Hong Kong. But then if we ship from Hong Kong to here by ocean, it takes about 3 weeks. So 5 to 10 days versus 21 days is kind of a huge difference. We can only ship by ocean if we are working super far in advance and we have that timeline locked down. As long as we are good with our timelines, we try to ship by ocean every time. There have been instances where we have paid over $10,000 of import fees because we shipped by air. And so now I try to make sure that we are locked down and everything is perfect so that we can be on time enough that we have that extra 21-day period to ship by ocean to help prevent any type of crazy import fees, because the import fees are significant. And over the long run, it does impact the price of our product. So you guys are probably like, oh, like, it can't be that expensive to make one pair of leggings and then this brand is charging me $69. The expenses come in when you consider not only the production, but also the cost of shipping. Think about how expensive shipping is. Like, we are paying over $10,000 in shipping alone for way more for every single collection. And then import fees on top of that. And then any other crazy fees or errors or anything that could come up. That's where a lot of those fees come from. If you're ever like, why is this brand charging me this much when like there's no way it costs that much? I think that because I started Liaison with the intention to just make really good clothes, and I didn't start it with the intention of like, okay, this is gonna be my full-time job and I'm gonna make as much money as I can. It's really helped me stay grounded in keeping Liaison's prices a lot more reasonable than our competitors, even though that obviously means that our margins are not as good as some of these other brands that maybe you guys shop at. But to me, it's worth it. I just want to make sure that the brand stays accessible for you guys and that you don't ever feel like you're being like gouged or anything. And I just want you guys to know that you are always top of mind when it comes to determining pricing and everything. But all of the pricing does incorporate not only the shipping and the import fees, but also all of the other little things that get put into a collection that maybe you hadn't considered before for other brands that you think about. So after the product ships to us, we have either 5 to 10 days before it arrives. Usually though, we have 21 days, which is really good. And I love to just like have that time to start working on the marketing and everything for the collection before the inventory is even there, because once the inventory is here, it's a little different now because we just outsource our warehouse, which is so exciting. But once the inventory is like actually here, you have to organize the inventory and get it unboxed and make sure it's all good and do all that. And so us having those extra 3 weeks without having to worry about the inventory coming was always very good and just kind of kept the peace for our team. While those pieces are in transit, our manufacturers send us what's called shooting samples. So we get one of every single product launching in the collection to use for content purposes. And for shooting samples, we actually do, I don't know if it's for all brands, but we actually do have to pay for them. And it's similar pricing to a sample at a different brand. So basically what they do is they send us one of every single design. So for the romance collection, they sent us one red layer bra, one black and white layer bra, one cheetah layer bra, in the size that we ask for to use for marketing and content purposes. So that is also why a lot of our campaigns include just me in the pictures, because we are just working off of shooting samples. And because the shooting samples, we do have to pay like $50 per piece. That is just another added expense, and it is super expensive and it adds up over time. So a lot of times our campaigns, we're just like, okay, we get our shooting samples, we shoot everything on me just for consistency and also to keep those shooting sample costs down, so we're not getting like 1,000 shooting samples coming in. And also the shooting samples are not final products, like they don't have the tags inside. So these aren't products that can be resold. 99% of the time when we launch a collection, I keep the shooting sample. I do not keep any of the inventory because I want you guys to have it. So like literally almost every single product that I have from Liaison doesn't have tags inside because it's a shooting sample, and I'm like, you know what, this is good enough. I'll just keep this so that the girlies can make sure that even if one extra person can get the product, like versus me taking it for myself, I'm like, they can have it. I'll just keep the shooting samples. So all of the photo shoot pictures that you guys ever see us do or take, all of those are shot in shooting samples. They are not shot in products that could be used for inventory on the site. So if a product ever sells out and you're like, oh my gosh, well, Steph got one. I don't know, no one's thinking that. I know you guys aren't thinking that, but just know that I don't even keep it for myself so that you guys can get it. So I hope that that kind of like clarifies how the process works from design to receiving the bulk inventory. So like 6 weeks later, the bulk inventory arrives. And while we're waiting for the bulk inventory to arrive, we've got our shooting samples, we're doing our marketing, we're prepping for our marketing. And every single launch, I mentioned this earlier in the video, every single launch at this point, we follow the exact same structure, and it has helped so much. So for example, I'm going to kind of break down the structure for our marketing right now, and it does kind of vary timeline wise. For example, like the romance collection, we knew we were going to have crazy assets and such good content that we wanted to have longer to roll out. Usually we launch on Tuesdays. We always launch on Tuesdays. Don't ask me why. I just feel like Tuesdays feel right. Like if you launch on a Monday, like people might have forgot about it over the weekend. And then Monday, we always use Monday to like push everything and be like, oh, don't forget, it's coming tomorrow. So I feel like Tuesdays are just good. I don't know. We always launch on Tuesdays. And we do launch usually at 1 p.m. Eastern, just so that the people who are on the Western time zone are awake and like functioning and everything by the time that it launches on the East Coast too. Because if we did like a 9 a.m. launch, then the West Coast people would have to wake up at 6 a.m. So there's a lot of things to consider as far as like launch times and launch day or launch date. And I also do like the consistency of always launching on a Tuesday. Like you guys know, like, okay, if they're rolling out now, that probably means that it's going to come out on a Tuesday, like in a week or two from now. So just keeping that consistency across all of our messaging for brand launches is good for not only our team internally to know exactly how we need to move, but also for our audience to be like, okay, like I know it's going to be on a Tuesday. Here's my schedule, before we even tell you guys it comes out on a Tuesday. So that's kind of why we keep the same day and the same time all the time. So while we are waiting for those products to get to us, while they're shipping to us on the ocean, we're shooting all of the content. For every single collection, we have a 6 email sequence that goes out. If you are on our email list, you have seen these before. If you have a small business, feel free to take notes on this. Our current email sequence includes a teaser that's like, oh, something's coming. A hard launch that just shows like, here's what's coming, but not all of the products. So the teaser will be like aesthetic clips, like the cherries, like super cute, like shots from behind the scenes type of vibes, but it's not showing any of the products. The second email that our community receives includes a hard launch of the name of the collection and maybe like one color and the overall vibe of the collection, but it doesn't show them every product launching. Email number 3 will be that email that actually does break down every single product. It's like our actual hard launch. It shows you guys, here's everything that's coming. We're so excited. Talks about the collection, the creative behind it. It has pictures of every single product launching. The 4th email that we like to send out would be something that is a little bit more community focused. So it's less like, here's the launch, here's what you need to buy. It's more like, okay, here's what the launch and the product would look like in your everyday life that you are already living. And then the 5th email that we send out is the reminder that the launch happens in 30 minutes. And then the 6th email is the launch is live. Timeline wise for those emails, we like to send out the teaser email 7 to 10 days ahead of time. And then the hard launch email, maybe like 5 to 7 days ahead of time. The full breakdown email goes out 3 to 4 days ahead of time. The community focused email goes out 24 to 48 hours ahead of time. And obviously the 30 minutes and the we are live go out on launch day. So it's about a 10-day marketing rollout for our email sequences. We also do add in matching SMS messages to these emails, and we try to keep them super cohesive. So if you guys get an image on an email and it's a really beautiful, powerful image, that same image is probably going to be what we use in the SMS to really drive home. And if it's not the exact same image, it's maybe like a different angle from that same shot to really drive home that branding and that consistency across all of our marketing platforms. So while we are prepping these emails and while we are prepping all of the SMS and everything, we also have Morgan, who is a godsend. She works full-time for Liaison, does all of our socials. If you guys ever DM Liaison, I don't see it. Sometimes I'll hop on there. I'm like, oh, what's going on? I don't see it though unless Morgan sends it to me. So if you guys have messaged with Liaison, it's probably been Morgan responding to you like 95% of the time. She does all of our social rollout planning during that like 3-week period when the products are on their way to us. So she does everything from Instagram stories to in-feed posts when we're posting and everything. But at this point, we have it so locked down that every single collection is basically the exact same sequence. She knows exactly what stories need to go out when. She knows exactly what posts should be going out when our giveaway post goes out, when our like this post, when our like line sheet goes out, everything like that. We follow the exact same timeline for every single drop. So if you have a brand right now and you're kind of like panicking every single launch because you're like, okay, well, last launch, I think I did something that worked well, but I can't remember. And I don't remember when I sent it out or why it did so well. I encourage you to take a second and take a step back and make a master list of tasks that your company needs to accomplish for every single launch. Make a master list so that you can refer back and then you can also add in timelines. So if you have a master list that says like finalized list of PR recipients, after that you can say like for 10 to 14 days out. You know what I mean? So take a second. It's so worth the time. It's so worth the energy to create that curated list of here's everything we do every single launch and here's the amount of time before launch that it happens. Don't say like 3 days before launch specifically or like anything like so specific until you are down to 48 hours because things change. Things can be crazy. Like who knows? Like if you say 5 days out, we do this every single time, it's too far out. Things could change, something crazy could happen. At the 48-hour mark, I think it's comfortable enough that you guys can lock in and say every single launch at 48 hours, we send out this email. 24 hours before, we send out this text. Take a second and create that master list for yourself and make it so detailed. I have a full entire master list of everything that we do for every single collection. And it is so specific. It literally says, change the Instagram bio to say the link is live. So make that list for yourself. And also, even if it's just you working for your brand right now, one day when you grow and scale and hire your first employee, having this document for them is going to be so vital. I was able to just give Morgan and all of our employees who work for us a document that's like, here's everything that needs to happen and here's when it needs to happen. And it made life so much easier for everyone involved. Right now on our team, we have Sophia making all of those emails that I just talked you through. So she designs our 6 email sequence for our launches. Morgan does all of our socials. And then while they are really doing all of that, I work directly with Morgan to curate the vibe for the photo shoot. And I'll say to her like, okay, here's the vision I had when I was designing this collection. For example, like the romance collection, we sat down, I was like, I see like cards and I see like dice. And it sounds crazy because I'm like, I see it, but like really, truly when I finish designing a collection, I can look at it and I hear what music I want to go with it. I hear like any audios in my brain that I'm like, ooh, like this is a good TikTok audio that I think associates with this collection really well. I can visually see any props that I know I want to use. I'm like, I like the idea of like lip kiss marks, things like that. I communicate all that with Morgan, and then she brings all of that to life. While the girls are working on bringing the marketing to life, I am behind the scenes doing the less fun things. So when you place your bulk order and it's shipping to you, after it ships, you are going to receive basically an invoice that breaks down how many products are coming of everything. Of course, you request inventory from your manufacturers. You're like, okay, I want, let's say 10, I'm just using fake numbers here. I'm using small fake numbers. 10 small black leggings and 10 medium black leggings. Sometimes during the cut and sew process, the fabric, the way that it gets cut or whatever, it ends up that sometimes you'll end up with 12 medium leggings or 8 small leggings instead of like the 10 or 1,000 or 10,000 that you actually requested. They'll be off by maybe 1 or 2 units. So there's been times when we ordered something and we were supposed to get, let's just say 1,000 of that product, and we actually got like 1,003 coming. So I, on the back end, while the girlies are doing the fun creative marketing stuff, I'm on the back end double checking all of our numbers to make sure that when the products come into the warehouse, our inventory on launch day accurately reflects the inventory that is coming to us rather than the inventory that I requested, because those numbers do tend to fluctuate by like 1 or 2 units. But if we weren't checking that and we were just not being so detailed, if I put 1,000 extra small bras on the website on launch day and only 998 came and all 1,000 sold, we would have to email 2 people and be like, hey, we don't have a bra to send to you. Make sense? Okay, so the girlies are doing the fun stuff. I'm doing the behind the scenes Shopify stuff. We operate through Shopify for everything related to our website and sales. So I add all the products to the website. I add the product photos. I add the details about the product, including like there's so many nitty gritty things on the back end. Like you have to add the weight of the product, because if you don't add the weight, they won't be able to calculate the shipping and everything like that. So I add all of the back end details, and it takes me probably like a full day to do this for a collection. It is a very long process to make sure that I don't miss anything, but that is why I have a full list of everything that I have to do. But that's why I have these lists. So for example, I have these bullets typed out. So I know exactly what, like, and if God forbid, if I ended up in the hospital, I could show this to one of my employees and they would know exactly what to do if they had to take over my role. So for example, if I'm adding a product to the website, I have these bullets. I know exactly what to do. It says, step 1, add product to the website. Step 2, add the product's weight. Step 3, add the harmonized code, add the price, add tags, add relevant categories, add inventory, add photos, set the product to draft or active, depending on what it is, create a new collection under products and add all the products using their appropriate tags or sort them manually. Like there's a lot of steps. And if you are not keeping track of all the steps and you miss one, like if I miss that one step that's adding the weight to the product on launch day, our website won't be able to calculate the shipping for your product or your order because there's no weight involved. There's no weight associated, and that would be a nightmare. So just staying super organized and having lists like this is so important. And it just keeps the whole team on the same exact page. Okay, so the products arrived to the warehouse now. So we just spent those 3 weeks doing everything I just told you. Products arrived to the warehouse. We used to sort them all ourselves. Now they're going up to Chicago to our new warehouse. When they arrive, they get sorted, they get organized, everything is good. And at that point, we could launch. Like everything is ready once they're into the warehouse, but we usually use that time to give us another extra week or so to send any PR stuff that we want to send out, or make more content that's like behind the scenes, things like that. But I would encourage you to, and there's been times where we have cut it so close, I would encourage you to have at least a week between your bulk inventory showing up and your launch day, okay? Because I can think of a time when we ordered our bulk inventory, 100 boxes showed up, or 100 boxes were supposed to show up. 99 showed up. We're missing a box. I'm like, hello, where are my size medium black leggings. Like what, hello? And because we gave ourselves that full week, the box ends up showing up. Or for example, you open the box and you notice like the stickers are wrong on the product, something like that, like the names of the product, like everything's wrong. You can communicate that with your manufacturers and they'll be able to send over like replacement stickers and things like that. Give yourself at least a week to have your inventory in hand before you launch it. Like we have launched before where inventory shows up the night before and we go live the next day and it's a disaster. Like it always works out, but it is stressful. It makes it hard to sleep at night. It makes you have anxiety, everything like that. So timeline wise, give yourself that extra time. I feel like I talked through everything that I wanted to talk through and I hope that I didn't miss anything. I am gonna answer some rapid fire Q&As. I asked a Q&A box on my Instagram story and I said like, what questions do you guys have for me about starting a business? And so I'm gonna answer some of these questions. I'm sorry that this video is so long. Like I could actually talk about this for 5 hours straight. There's so much more that I could say. So if you're wanting a part 2 or anything like that, let me know. Or if there's anything I mentioned today that you're like, ooh, can you talk more about that? Let me know and I can absolutely sit down and make another video. But let's get into some of the questions that I got on my Instagram. The number one question I got multiple times was, do you have investors or how should I fund a startup? I do not have investors. We've never had investors. Everything was self-funded. I do really think that, especially if you're just trying to do clothing, if you are trying to do something so spectacular like biotech or anything like that, you can definitely look into investors. I think that for starting a clothing brand, there's something really special about putting in the grunt work up front to fund it yourself. I funded our first drop all in, cost $11,000, like 11,000 something, like a few dollars here and there, but like $11,000 total, okay? That's a lot of money. I, on launch day for our first collection, had $130 in my bank account. I spent every dollar I'd earned on TikTok partnerships or selling my workout PDF guides, all of that, or bartending or working my catering job, all of my shitty college jobs. Every dollar I made, I put into our first launch, and it was about $11,000. So that is how we funded. I can't really speak on investors because I don't have any experience with that. I know that there is an activewear brand called Tala, T-A-L-A, and the owner of Tala, her name is Grace Beverly. She does have some really informational videos about investors because Tala has done multiple rounds of like investor funding successfully. So if you want to learn more about like funding a brand, maybe watch her videos because she's a lot more educated on it than I am. But I do know that unless you have a crazy new idea or a really already strong established audience, finding funding for an activewear brand, let's just say, is going to be very hard. So I think you can do it on your own. Start saving up your money and try to launch it on your own without investors, because there is something special about, number one, putting in that grunt work, and number two, owning everything. Like this is your brand. You want to own everything. This question was, how do you determine the timeline for when you start marketing teasers or announce the product? So I do think that, I talked a little bit about it in the video, I do think that customers get interested, but if you tease things too soon, they get fatigued, right? They're like, okay, we get it, like red shorts are coming, just give them to us. We have found the most success when we do a 10 to 12 day rollout period and then launch on the final day of that period. So we'll usually start, I would say max 2 weeks out, but usually we start around 10 to 12 days out, and that has been really successful for us. How do you build a community around your brand? Again, I do think that I'm speaking from a little bit of a unique perspective here because I do have such an awesome community with you guys directly through all of my socials. But a lot of people who come to Liaison's events now actually found Liaison as its own brand. They didn't find Liaison through me, and then they meet me and they're like, oh, I didn't know, I don't know who you are. And I'm like, perfect, that is what I want. I want this to be Liaison standing alone. I don't want people to have to know me to know Liaison. Building that community is so important. Since day one of Liaison, of Defining Active, we have done community events. It can be pricey to do events, but it doesn't have to be. Go to a park, invite all of your friends, invite local people, local businesses, see if there's a local business that would partner with you. No matter what your brand is, just show up for your community with free events. Do not charge them $1 to be there. Do not expect them to buy anything just because they are there. Just show up with them. Maybe it's like a scrapbook making. Maybe you guys do a little picnic. It doesn't have to be a crazy thing like these crazy influencer events that you guys see online. I used to just host workouts in the park for free. Like I'd be like, bring your mat, I'll teach a class, let's do it. And no point during the workout would I say, by the way, don't forget to shop. Make these events so obviously community driven. Like the events that we do, it's never about, okay, if we do this event, how many people can we convert into sales? Don't have that mindset around it. But I would encourage you to continue to have events and open up your personal time to your audience, and the community will come, because if someone likes an event, they're going to come back for another one. Do you have an accountant and financial budget team, or only one or the other? I have an accountant. Okay, let's run through Liaison structure. I am the CEO, founder, designer, anything that happens, I just deal with it. Morgan is the director of everything social, and she also plays a huge part in our creative direction. Sophia is in charge of all of our email marketing platform and everything like that. And Lucy does all of our photography. And then Jack, he is our newest employee. Oh, actually, no, Sophia is. Jack started in the fall. So Jack, he does all of our operational stuff. So he was the one who figured out how to get our warehouse to Chicago, which was crazy. And it's also so nice having a man on the team, because like those boxes were heavy and we had to get them to Chicago onto pallets and like wrap them up and everything. And he did all the heavy lifting, literally and figuratively, for that whole process. So that is our current team structure. So outside of all of our salaried employees, I also have my own team. So I have a legal team with my lawyer. His name is Scott. He's our direct contact anytime we need to make contracts for our influencer partners, or if I need like contracts for my employees or anything like that. And then he also does our trademark work and helps us make sure that we are protected. And then I have my accountant. Her name is Eva. She's amazing. She does everything for not only my personal money, but also Liaison. So she's Liaison's accountant as well. And she just keeps me in check. Like I told her, I was like, I don't need you to give me daily updates, but if you think that something is not going right, just let me know. And I text with her and we communicate directly. And then I also have my financial advisor, who her name is Zoe. Maybe I should get a little female lawyer, because I'm like all female team, but Scott's amazing. So Zoe and Eva are my financial queens. Zoe is my personal financial advisor. She plays a part in Liaison's financial advising, in the sense of like, I can run ideas past her and I can be like, okay, this is like what we were thinking budget wise for this. And she'll be like, yeah, that's good, or no, that's not good. But she's not like taking Liaison's money per se and allocating it towards stuff. We do all of that in-house. Like I do it and Jack helps me with it operationally. So team-wise, yes, I do have an accountant and I do have a financial advisor, but my financial advisor is more so for my own money. She does all my personal investments. And then Eva is for Liaison's accounting. The next question kind of piggybacks off that one. I'm so curious of the process of paying yourself/employees. I don't need to know how much. Okay. For the first 4 years of, like first 3.5 years of Liaison, of Defining Active, whatever, I did not have a salary. I didn't pay myself at all, but I did reap the benefits of owning Liaison. You know what I mean? So like I was going on the brand trips and obviously Liaison was paying it for me. And if I needed to get my nails done for a photo shoot, it came from Liaison's budget. Kind of in the sense of like tax write-offs, but tax write-offs are also a lot so different than you guys would think. Like I feel like influencers online, they're like, oh, I'm gonna write off this purse, like everything like that. Like it's not quite like that when it comes down to business stuff. Like the creator side is a bit different, but when it comes to like liaisons, like business stuff, it's not quite like that. So I am now officially on salary for Liaison. I get paid bi-monthly, like twice a month. I get paid bi-weekly from Liaison the same way that my employees do. My payroll is completely handled by my accountant, Eva. I do not touch any of that. I get receipts of everything and I get notifications that my employees were paid, and that is that. My employees are on salary, so they have a set like bi-monthly or bi-weekly payment, and I know to expect like that's how much is going to go out of the Liaison account and go directly towards them for their salaries. But yeah, for the first time, I paid myself 3.5 years into the business, which is crazy. I did not like get a payment. I reaped the benefits, but from Liaison, I was not on salary until last summer. So now I am on salary with Liaison, which is really fun because it's like, oh my gosh, like not me on salary. But at the same time, because that money is money that was first made by Liaison and then paid out to me, I have to pay taxes on it twice. Liaison pays taxes on the money that it makes, and then I personally, so Liaison's S Corp pays money, and then I personally have to pay taxes on my salary. So I hope that makes sense. My salary coming directly from Liaison's gonna have to pay the taxes from that, and then they send it to me, and then the government views us as two separate entities, even though like I am Liaison. I have to pay taxes on that again. So giving yourself a salary should not be your top priority. I am a firm believer. I mean, like for the first 3.5 years, every dollar that we made went back into the business. I didn't touch any of it. But again, coming from a level of privilege, because I had brand deals, I had my app, I had this, I had that to pay for my life outside of Liaison. Now I am on salary. I have communicated with my financial team that if for some reason something starts to go wrong with Liaison and we are not doing well, my salary is the first to go. So if something happens and we can't pay our bills anymore, my team, I made sure that like they are keeping their salaries no matter what. My salary could go if like I don't need it, right? Like, because I still have my app and all of the other things that I'm doing, which is why also I think as a business owner, as a creator in general, it's really important to have multiple streams of income. But yeah, that's kind of how the process of paying yourself and paying employees works. We do it all through QuickBooks. When are you hiring next? Because dream job. I promise I'm not like making this up. I'm like reading a blank screen. I promise someone actually said that. We are not hiring right now, but if we end up hiring anytime soon, you guys will of course be the first people to know. I will let you guys know. But for right now, we don't have anything open. How did you know the process of making clothes? Was there someone guiding you? Again, I kind of touched on this on the video. I did not know. I literally just made sketches and my manufacturers helped me, and that's how that worked out. You can absolutely watch videos on how to make a tech pack, how to design clothes, how to do all of that. Now, I will say owning a clothing brand makes buying other brands' clothes so much worse. Like, cause I go to the store and I try something on, I'm like, oh my God, if we just removed 1 centimeter here and added it here instead, this would fit so much better, because I am designing everything now, like down to the centimeter. But when you go shop for clothes, it's like, oh my God, like it's not that hard to make good clothes if we just could fix this. But yeah, no one was helping me. I was just figuring it out as I went. So truly, if you don't have any experience, just know that you absolutely can figure it out. What is one fear that goes through your mind with every launch? I would say my one fear that goes through my mind with every launch would be that I messed up something on the back end of the website and the product is like, all the inventory numbers are wrong or something, or like the site like just crashes or something like that. There's no really like fear in the sense that like people aren't going to buy it, because I know our audience is incredible and shows up for us so strong. I would say any fear comes into the fact with like, if I I get so worried that the user experience could get messed up because of like step error. How did you know how much to order when first starting out? Okay, wait, this is actually such a good question, and I didn't touch on this in the video. So manufacturers have something that's called the minimum order quantity. And for custom products, usually you're looking at least 100 units of a product. So like if you want to add personal branding and you want custom colors and you want proprietary fabrics, it's going to be at least 100. Usually it's like at least 300 to 500, but bare minimum, you're not gonna be able to get less than 100, and that's of one product, like one color. So just fake numbers here. You're gonna have to get 100 black leggings. You're gonna have to get 100 red leggings, 100 gray leggings. So when we first launched, we had that product minimum that we had to meet no matter what. And so I didn't know how much inventory to get when I was first starting out. I just ordered the bare minimum amount, and it still cost, what, $11,000, because we had so many different SKUs, which are like individual units. So when we launched, I just got the minimum order quantity and it ended up selling out really fast. So then we did an unlimited pre-order for the Ignite collection, and we kind of used the total sales from the Ignite collection to put together the amount of interest that there was for specific products. And we used those numbers going forward. And then we've been able to just kind of track our like scaling over time and increase those inventory numbers as needed. Do you design everything, or does someone help you design? So I kind of talked about this a bit already, but every single product that you guys have worn has been nailed down and designed by me. So literally anything you've ever ordered from Liaison came directly from like these hands measuring things. I will say, like there's only so many ways to make a certain like sweatshirt, like a crew neck sweatshirt. So there's definitely ways that you can find inspiration from other like brands who are doing things really well, or other materials that you feel out in public and you're like, oh, I want to use this, or other design elements that you see in, let's say, like furniture. Like I've definitely looked at products like on furniture and like seen the way that like fabric folded and was like, oh, I kind of feel like I could do something with that. So I don't want to say that like every design that's ever come out has come straight from my brain. A lot of it has been like influenced by all of the experiences that I've had, all of the different things that I have learned and seen over time, but every product fit and feel wise has been completely designed by me. How do you manage your team and any difficult conversations? Okay, this will be the last question of the video. I think this is such a good question because when you start a business and it's just you and you are the one making every decision and you are the one controlling everything, when you bring on people to your team, it can be hard to navigate how to communicate effectively with them, especially if they do not have the same style of communication preferences that you do. So for example, I know that someone could come to me and be so straight up and be like, I don't like this, fix this, do this. And I'd be like, okay, done, and done. But not every employee that you are going to have, or every person that you're working with, is going to have that same type of communication pattern. So this is definitely something that I'm still actively learning and something that I'm always working on. And I can definitely reflect back on the past like few years and think about times when I just royally messed up communication with one person or another when it came to work involved things. When I hired my first employee, I was like 20 years old. I was an idiot. I didn't know anything. And I'm not saying that if you are 20 years old right now, you're an idiot, but I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. And so when I hired my first employee, and her name was Lakin, and we're still friends and she's amazing, I remember like working with her and not really knowing, like, I'm like, what can I tell her to do things? Like, what are the boundaries here? It's also important to make sure when you are hiring that you are hiring people who want to be there for the right reasons, and they don't want to be there for any other reason outside of like working and helping grow your business. That also comes having those boundaries between your employees and yourself. Even though you are spending so much time together, I think it's really important to continue to have those boundaries, because if you are going out and partying with your employees and you're getting drunk with your employees and you're doing crazy things with your employees, which I have done before, and like reflecting back, I'm like, I don't do that anymore. I think that it just opens up the opportunity for things to go wrong or boundaries to be crossed. And I don't think that that is really ever the best. So I think that it's really important to keep those boundaries with your team as far as interpersonal like communication and relationships. But when those hard things do come up, I think that as a boss and as a manager, you have to view yourself as the boss and as the manager and not as the friend. I think that it's easier to do when you're not going out with these people on the weekends and you're not getting drunk with them and you're not hanging out with them and it's not every single day you're intertwined every aspect of your life. Like for example, Morgan and I, like it's Morgan and it's me. We do not hang out really outside of work, but when we hang out at work, it's amazing. It's lovely. Like we have so much fun. And like, obviously we do fun things for work. Like we'll go get lunch for work and like things like that, but we're not going to go out on the weekend together. And I think because we have those good boundaries, it's easy for me, and I literally never have to say anything. Morgan's like the best employee. I never have to say anything, but it would be easy for me to say to Morgan like, hey, I need you to do a better job at this or this, which I literally have never had to say to her. But it would be easier for me to say that to her because we don't have like that intertwisted relationship where it's like, okay, now at the bar this weekend, like she's not going to buy me shots because like I told her she did a bad job at work this week. Create those boundaries for yourself. It is so important. Obviously, you want to love the people that you work with. You want to have fun with them. I get that more than anyone, but I've also absolutely crossed lines with previous employees that just ended up making me kind of like have that pit in my stomach that's like, fuck, like I probably should have been a boss there and not a friend. So just having those boundaries is super important. And knowing each other's communication style is also just so important. Like not everyone is going to be able to handle a straightforward communication type of approach when it comes to feedback. Like some people are going to need a little bit softer and a little bit more roundabout feedback when it comes to how to communicate that their work is doing well or that their work isn't doing so well. So I think that it's really important to just acknowledge that everyone communicates so differently, and just because you can handle being talked to a certain way doesn't mean that someone else can. And I think that from a manager's perspective, you have to be able to put on like the manager hat, you have to be able to put on the business owner hat, and then take it off and then put on the friend hat when you need to. But I think that if you're wearing the business hat and the friend hat all the time, it's not a great idea. So definitely something to consider, especially because I know my audience, I know you guys are younger, and I know that the people that you want probably on your team are going to be younger and potentially your friends. I'm not saying don't work with your friends. Like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you're going to, you need to just have clear set boundaries and make sure that you know when to be the manager and when to be the friend. I love talking about this. It's crazy because even 5 years later, I am so obsessed with Liaison. I am obsessed. I could sit here and talk for 24 hours straight about what it's like to run Liaison. I really could. I am absolutely obsessed with everything from start to finish for every product, every collection, every social post, every email, everything. I'm obsessed with all of it. And because I'm so obsessed, we have been successful and we have been able to continue to grow over a 5-year period. If you are not obsessed with your passion project, with your business, it's not going to bring you long-term fulfillment. And just because you might like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this, like I feel like I might like it, take a step back and really ask yourself, like, am I interested in it enough to become obsessed if things take off and end up
being my entire life. Like Liaison is my entire life. I wake up in the morning, first thing I think about is, okay, did my manufacturer respond? I go to bed at night, the last person I'm texting, please, most people, it's like their relationship. It's like, the first person I think about is my husband. The last person I think about is my husband. I'm like, the first person I think about is my manufacturer. The last person I think about is also my manufacturer. And that is because I am obsessed. I'm in love with every part of running a business. I'm in love with every part of Liaison. And I know for a fact that I would not care about any of this. I wouldn't have any of this. I would not be obsessed if it weren't for you and your support and the way that you guys have backed me since day freaking one. Obviously, none of this would exist if it weren't for you. I love you guys so, so much. This community is everything to me. This brand is everything to me. And I hope that this video kind of pulled back the curtain on a lot of the details of owning a business and answered any questions that you might have. But thanks for watching. I'll see you for the next video. I'm obsessed with Liaison. I'm obsessed with running a business, and I am obsessed with you. I love you, Liaison fam, and we will talk soon.